Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lizard Brains podcast. I'm your host, DJ Allison Drini, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tom McGorman, and I just realized that I didn't set up the video for the podcast, so just give me 1 second here, Tom. How are you doing in the meantime?
I'm good. I'm finishing dinner. How are you?
I'm great. The video's all set up now. So
Hi, friends, on video.
whoever was starting on the YouTube channel and it started off as a black screen, you didn't miss much.
Hundreds of people are going to see that. Dang it. Thousands even.
Dang it. Yeah, they will finally go viral for some reason.
This episode, for some reason, when I'm just in the control tower of Pit Race for no reason.
Yeah. And the screen starts off as black. The thumbnail is probably just going to be black until Tom fixes it.
I'll fix it eventually.
So,
dude, I'm running ragged at the end of this month. I'm starting to feel the effects.
how many days have you been
how white
home?
these knuckles are.
How many days have you been home?
I've been home two nights.
2 nights?
And like a couple of times in and out. But the times that I was home, my parents were visiting, so I was still kind of entertaining.
Yeah.
Guys, I haven't been basically home since before Solo Nationals. That's how this month's been. Haven't missed an episode, though. How are you doing?
Probably better than you.
No, no complaints. I'm living life.
Yeah, so just a couple days home, like the whole month basically for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Tom McGorman life.
Little gypsy race car driver.
Yep. Hey, that doesn't sound too bad. The race car driver part, at least.
/ commentator / podcast host / event manager / whatever else I need to do.
Tom, you do such a good job with the commentary. It's just, it's very, I just like, and I might be biased because I do have a podcast with you.
No.
But I can't wait to hear what you're going to say about something, like in the race. Like somebody else will be talking and like it's pretty entertaining, and then I see something happen and I'm like, ooh, Tom's gonna have a comment about it. I can't wait till I hear it. And then you have a comment about it and I'm like, God, that was better than I thought it was gonna be. So it's
yeah, I guess that's what I did this past weekend was just I think I'm getting intruded upon. Is it Kevin? It's Kevin. Hi, Kevin.
Kevin made it to the podcast.
Yeah, so we're at Pit Race, and there's some of our friends in paddock. Kevin's going to hang out in the warm. What was I talking about? The runoffs. The last podcast we did, I was there, but it was only during qualifying. So now they've done all the races, and I commentated all the races, and you guys probably watched a lot of them live. And I don't know, what'd you think? Did you watch? You were kind of busy.
I was kind of busy. I watched a little bit of STL. I watched a little bit of STU. I watched a little bit of all the races. I was kind of like skipping through them. You know, I'd watch the start. I would quickly skip past any cautions. Like that's how I kind of like watched the racing. I watched all of Spec Miata, which it was probably one of the more not interesting, but still interesting in a way, Spec Miata races where like the front two, like they obviously should work together. At one point they like kind of stopped working together. So it looked like it was going to be like a 10 car fight for first place again. And then they got in the proper order again and then just kind of started driving away again. I'm drawing a blank on the kid who won. That guy was really fast. What was his name, Tom?
Ethan Goulart.
Goulart, that's what it was. Yeah. You know what? I'm sure he's been doing Spec Miata for a while, but I've never seen his name before. He looked real solid. Just like, just the consistency in the car and obviously the pace. Yeah, he looked really good.
I raced against his dad, Elevon, in TCA. When I was in World Challenge, he was running a team with NC MX-5s and then ND Global MX-5s. And that's close to 10 years ago now, which means Ethan was probably like 5 and 6 years old.
Nice.
No. He's a little older than that. Maybe like 10 and 12 when I was racing his dad. Elevon's really fast too. He was one of the guys that like I had to work pretty hard to beat and was definitely not able to beat when BOP was off or like if I had a bad day. He was really quick. So yeah, he and his dad were actually tied for the front row, which has to be like the coolest thing ever
That
to
is
be
the
like
coolest
tied with
thing,
your
yeah.
kid on the front row lockout of this big race.
It looked like the people that were racing against him were like purposely making sure that Dad Goulart, is that their last name?
Yeah,
That
Goulart. But yeah.
Goulart. So that Daddy Goulart couldn't get to Sonny Goulart because
Daddy Goulart.
it seemed like Daddy Goulart should have been in third to chase down everyone. It seemed like he probably had the best pace, but everyone was sabotaging it like consistently. Like it was like everyone wanted to be third for some reason.
Well,
That's
the
what I
kid
kept
that
seeing.
so Ethan won. He's the the son, and then the other kid that was in second was named Noah. He and Elevon, the dad, had a little contact in turn 3 that shuffled Elevon from the battle for second and third to like eighth, and then
Y-
he had to come back
Yeah,
all in that one straightaway. So he was like there until he got hit, and then the kid that hit him or they touched. I don't remember who did what, but
I don't remember whose
then he
fault
went
it
on to like
was.
push the sun away. So then they were like a top 2 breakaway. But yeah, I guess when you put like 40 cars on track, it's exciting pretty much no matter what, especially in spec racing. But you're right, it wasn't like the barn burner of the weekend. Honestly, I think Formula V was probably the barn burner of the weekend.
I didn't watch that one.
I know I don't think to go watch the Formula classes all that often, but Formula V was incredible. I heard that Formula 600 was really good again. These are ones I didn't commentate. What were the good ones I did? F production was nuts. That one's always nuts though.
F production. That's one with all the chopped roofs and stuff, right? Okay, I didn't
Yep.
see that one. Which day was that one on? Tom, you should come up with a list of races that we should
I
watch.
should. I will. I will. I should have prepared that for this week, but
Okay,
uh
because we talked last week. We were saying like every year with runoffs, like there's always like the expected. These are the races you should watch, but there's always like those random like whoa, where did that awesome race come from? Races. So if
yeah,
there was like, we should make a playlist of like, okay, you guys want to get caught up on the runoffs? Like, watch these races, and we'll
yeah,
ask
good point.
Larry which ones he thought were like the highlights as well.
Yeah.
Okay, we got homework.
That I got homework. I'll do that next week. I'll have it prepared.
Okay,
Sorry, coach.
it's all good. It's all good. You know what? If we did any kind of strategizing before we started recording the episode, maybe we would have had that ready.
Oops.
We literally was like, oh
I'm
hey
trying to think of
Tom,
what
how's
else.
it going? And then we just started recording. So
The main things I can think about are the ones that I held my tongue on during the broadcasts because those are the moments that I like wanted to say what I actually mean, but I have to be a presenter instead of like an opinionated person.
yeah.
So like that GT, there's a battle in GT2. I don't know if you've seen this battle with the Trans Am cars. Kevin's laughing over there. He's already seen it.
Okay. Oh, is this the one where they all went spinning?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I what?
There was
What
one
was
guy.
that? I haven't even seen that on iRacing, Tom.
It was they were basically the battle for second, third, and fourth were coming up on a lapped car. And the lapped car, no idea how this happens, how you end up on a racetrack in a championship race and then you just like don't see that you're being lapped. Like one, you should know that you're gonna get lapped because your race is obviously not going well.
Well, also
And
you
then
were
like
already lapped by first place, so you already know that the pack is somewhere nearby.
exactly. Thank you. You've already been lapped by one. So the rest are coming, right? Just completely doesn't see them, turns into them in turn 8. And it turns into like he spins second place, who collects into third and fourth. Third, it's like sees his chance to like shoot the gap. So he like throttles it up in the grass and like spins back onto the track. And they're all over the place. And fifth and sixth go through or whatever it was.
It was there
And
was
yeah, like,
it was like 6 cars in a group and only one drove away.
yeah. And like in those moments when you're presenting, like it's the difference between like Fox News and like BBC maybe, where it's like one is entertainment and one is like a news.
Like
Like my job is not to be entertainment and opinion. My job is like presentation of what's happening. So in my head, I'm like, oh my god, what the hell? Like that guy, get the what's your problem? You know, like I'm mad at that guy because he ruined the best race on the track. But like you can't say that. There's a couple of things like that that happened over the weekend where you just like, I'm biting my tongue on camera. Don't say what I actually think. Don't get in trouble.
I think I would find it hard not to meme on like the thing. Like if that happened, I feel like I would have to say like, well, that's gonna be a meme later or something like that. Like, like I think I
Well,
would
it
find
is
it
nice.
hard to not crack jokes like during the broadcast.
When they used to do like legit TV packages, the first 2 years, I think, or 3 years, we did like actual TV production. Those were like you're supposed to be serious, like pretty clean cut, whatever. But when it transferred over to YouTube, they're like fine with us goofing a little bit. But I don't want to goof on somebody specific and make them mad. Like I don't want to be a jerk.
Right. That's why I
But
think like in that specific instance, like saying like that's why I thought my meme comment. I think that would be pretty
yeah,
safe. Like, oh,
yeah.
yep, that's gonna be a GIF later, or like be like, oh, did somebody drop a banana peel or like something? Because it's like, yeah, it's something. It's just because it looked scripted.
a little bit. It's like the only way. Yeah, the only way that could have happened is if someone like paid that guy off or
Because
something.
as far as I could tell, there was not really any like heavy damage to any of the cars because everyone was just kind of like lazily like spinning and like shooting off in different directions. There was like no
Yep.
hard contact from what I could tell.
It was so weird.
Man, where would how would they so people listening, how would they find that clip?
Eventually, all the races will be on YouTube as their own race. If you want to go now, you have to go to Saturday's stream, which is on the SCCA YouTube channel, and you have to scrub through it to find the GT2 race, and it's on the last lap 13 out of 13 of the GT2 race. Or when I'm getting my hands freer, I'll like link it in the Discord chat. But
You have like a screen cap of it, right?
I do, but my phone. Oh, here it is.
I don't know if you can.
My phone was outside.
Can you post that in the chat without
My-
jumping off
my,
the computer?
My assistant over here, Kevin's going to send it in the chat in a second.
Thanks, Kevin.
But if you're listening later, it'll be up on there eventually. I want to hear about your weekend. You drove a Porsche a lot.
Ivan in the chat goes, Jamie, pull that up, like a reference to Joe Rogan. We need a Jamie. Is Kevin our Jamie right now?
I don't know. I don't listen to that.
We need a control person that like just pulls up stuff for us, so we don't have to do it. All we do is talk, Tom. We just stick to what we're
admin.
good at.
Channel
Yeah.
admin.
So me and Peter Lear, who I did one lap with last year, Peter Lear thought his GT4 Cayman was far too slow, so he got a 911 GT3 RS instead. So I already drove it a little bit at Pit Race like a couple weeks ago. But this weekend we really got to put some time into the car. I think I did like 7 or 8 sessions, which turned out to be I would just go out for 3 laps and then come back in. I was just basically doing 1 lap practice.
Yeah.
I could have probably like, stayed out for 20 minutes or whatever, but at that point it's like it doesn't really feel like it's doing anything because I was just trying to get like just basically how the car changes like throughout the stint of the 3 laps. And man, that car, the Cayman was great, but the way the 911 drives is just so playful and fun, and it's ludicrously fast, but it's not hard. It isn't a hard car to drive. I was giving Ryan Mukherjee a ride, and the thing that I kept saying, it was like I look like I'm like doing really awesome things right now, but I'm telling you, like a fit is harder to create a lap time than this thing. Like this is easy. This is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you look amazing. I think that's probably the most fun part about it is you look like a champion. But it's
You're
great.
going full Porsche driver at this point.
I
I feel like a hero at the track day, and I'm not even trying that hard.
well, so we were on these Continental ECF tires. That's like their endurance tire, and then everyone who was on like a true 200 treadwear, or there was a couple people on these Goodyear Supercar 3Rs or whatever. They're like 100 treadwear. I think that's what you had on the that C7 ZR1 at
It was, yeah. Those are fast.
yeah. So I like those people would just drive away from me in the corners, and because everyone at this track day, so it's like a winning formula. Basically, like you're kind of invited track day. It's not like just random people from that like didn't know about winning formula was signing up for this thing, right? So everyone there, like mostly everyone there was like really good drivers. So it's not like I don't think I caught anybody during my session. And actually, it was so weird. So we were on like the first part of the hour, so it was like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. That's when my session was. I was always the first one to go out, and I never saw any other cars, Tom.
That's awesome. I'm surprised you didn't go out and like chase Aaron or something in his C8.
So I thought I was chasing
You
Aaron.
just couldn't catch
Tom.
him. Is that what you're saying?
No, I thought, because I was like, I want to get a pit party going with fast cars. So I like was rounding up fast cars to do a pit party, right? I was trying to like rally the troops. They're like, we're gonna go party in fast cars. It's gonna be like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be like iRacing, but like with expensive cars. This is gonna be amazing. And then it was just me and Aaron that showed up. I was trying to get like a coalition of fast people and fast cars to like go out on the track, and we were all just gonna do laps together. And so Aaron Lichty's in front of me in that orange Corvette, and we go out and we do like a single lap, and I'm kind of like hounding him. And so he points me by, and I'm driving, and the next thing you know, he's hounding me, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna point you by. And then the car just drives away from me. It's on better tires. That's what it should do, but it just keeps driving away. And I'm like, hey, we were supposed to have a pit party. Come back. And then we're done.
Now you know what it's like to have pit parties with you in iRacing.
So
everyone's like, he just drove away
hold
from
on.
me.
We're done, and I'm driving into the garage, and I see Aaron Lichty, and I'm like, who in the hell was in that car? I thought it was Aaron. It was Andy Smedgard.
Oh.
I was like, oh, he didn't get the memo that we were pit partying.
He was just doing his own program. Yeah.
He was just doing his own thing. So, thank you, Christine. Christine just brought me water. So yeah, I tried to get another pit party going, and it was me, Pervez. Pervez has like an older GT3 RS 911. I don't know what generation. I don't know that much about Porsches, but it had a stick. It wasn't like PDK. But he had those Goodyear tires. So I thought, oh, it's going to be like a good, like we're going to set around the same lap times, and we did. So we had some fun. And that was with Ryan Mukherjee in the car, but I had a really sloppy like second lap. I was like, where did this lap come from? I haven't executed this poorly on a lap the whole weekend. So Pervez kind of got away from me, and I was like, dang it. It could have been like right on his bumper, like flying around Putnam, but my second lap was awful. It was literally the worst. Ryan, you're probably listening to this. That was the worst lap of the weekend. The rest of the laps are so much better than that.
Every time someone gets in the car with me and I haven't, even if I've driven it already, I'm like, no judgment. I don't like being like watched in real time in the car.
Well, so I mean, I took a couple people for rides, and I was mostly taking Peter for rides, because this is one lap prep, by all means. So it was fun. Me and Peter got to go over data, squiggly lines. I made sure I brought my aim, and it was nice with the concrete, because before we would just look at the data on the Garmin, and which is basically just like watch the video, and then it's kind of clunky to go back to like my video and like show like, okay, here's what I did different, and then go back to his video, right? It's a little clunky. So having the lines and then his video could talk about how his exit out of 3 was impacting his speed that he could carry through 4, and like this is what it looks like, and from this point to this point, this is how much time you lost, and like I want you to go out next time and just focus on the positioning. Like you don't even have to be at the limit of adhesion, but just focus on the positioning, and like let's see how much time that's worth, and then comes back, and then we can look at the data again, and that I think that was really nice. And I think what was also nice is for Peter to see where there wasn't time to gain, where like we were like turn 7 at Putnam, we were the same. So like Peter was extracting everything he could out of turn 7, or at least within reason. Because I'm not saying I was extracting the ultimate limit at turn 7, but like I don't know, it was enough.
I don't know, bud. I see that you're a track day champion.
You see that shirt, huh?
Yeah.
Dude, I didn't see a lot of Lizard Brain merch at this thing. I meant to give away some stickers. I got the stickers, and then I just kind of forgot about them. I meant to like sticker up people's cars when they were there, but I just I failed on that. So sorry, Tom.
I I keep forgetting to. It's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off. You were not lighting turn 7 on fire specifically, but you were able to narrow down that it didn't matter for him either, right?
Oh, yeah. So sorry,
How was your
I
point?
almost went on a complete different sidetrack. So uh
Was it a good one? Should we go there?
no, we'll get there eventually. So
Okay.
yeah, so we could tell where he was, you know, where he was on pace, where he needed time, and then I think that made the event more fun for Peter than it would have been otherwise, because now he like got to go out there, and instead of just doing laps, he got to like experiment and like try stuff and then see its exact difference on his time or his comparison to my laps like in real time. And since I was doing laps throughout the day, because the course was changing pretty rapidly, like it was actually kind of warm out. Um, so like throughout the day, like I think my best executed lap was a 13.0, but that wasn't my fastest lap. That was 8 tenths slower than my fastest lap. But I think my like where I felt like I had the car floating in and out like every one was a 13.0 with Peter in the passenger seat. So,
Sure.
but you always, what is it where like on YouTube, like you're like, well, I gotta post the fastest lap of the weekend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I That's so true. There have been times where I look back and I want to post like my fast lap from the weekend. I watch it. I'm like, ooh, I don't want to post that lap. And then you can like the next lap has a way better turn 3 or whatever it may be. And you're like, maybe I can just post this one and play it off as the fastest one because it
Y-
looks better. But
Yeah.
we all do that, right? Kevin, you
Yeah.
do that?
Yep.
Okay, Kevin's nodding.
Yep. So, because
Okay, that's
I think, I mean, look, if the takeaway of that little thought right there is that your fastest time isn't always necessarily your best executed lap. Like you can have a really good executed
no.
lap and it can be a slower time. Uh, depending on if you do like if it's the same conditions and everything and it's slower, then it probably wasn't as well executed. But car changes, the tires change because me and Peter were basically hot lapping it, so the tires were just roasted like the whole day.
Yeah.
So,
How are
also,
you? You're building a pretty good relationship with that car?
yeah.
Are you having little epiphanies still, or is it like it feels
Well,
normal?
so I think the hang up right now, and me and Peter are going to drive the car again in November at Road Atlanta for Chin Track Day. If you're going, let me know. Um, and we're gonna throw the Bridgestones on there because the Conti ECFs, it doesn't feel like they communicate very well. It's hard to tell exactly what they're doing, and then when you ask too much, either they chatter across the road, where it's like a tuk 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 tuk, like in that you feel and hear in the car as a tire literally skips across the surface, or you just go for like a wild slide. And it's hard. Like most tires, as you like get near the limit, they have like a squirm and a squish to them. And these tires, they would have that squirm, but it you to the squirm had such a small window to let you know that you're in that area. And the way I mostly drive is I get to that squirm and I try to live there as long as possible. So when the tires had a really small window of the squirm, it just felt like I was kind of like being a big baby on corner exit every time because I didn't want to ruin the lap by going for a big slide.
Yeah, I get
So
that. That was my exact experience with them too on a WRL car.
yeah, they were just really tough to drive on. So I was telling Peter, I started making a Dragon Ball Z reference, and I was like, Peter's totally not gonna understand this. What am I doing? But it was
Try
basically,
me.
all right. Well, so the fighters, it's like common where like they'll like be fighting in a fight, and they're like, like they're like trading blows with their foe. And then they're like, ooh, that was a good warm up. And the foe's like, what do you mean a warm up? And then they like take their armor off and it like weighs as much as a car and they like drop it on the ground and it goes boof. Like you could tell there's some weight behind it. But like nobody knew you were wearing like weighted armor. And now
Uh-huh.
like they're really ready to go. So we're gonna drop off the weighted armor, aka the Conti ECFs, and we're gonna put Bridgestones on it and hopefully it feels like we dropped all the weight of that, training
That's
armor.
awesome. I'll be curious if those work on that car because I've heard mixed stories about the fitment of what's available from Bridgestone on the rear of those 911s. But I'm gonna feel like kind of an idiot if we didn't try it for the one lap car last year and it just like works great on your car.
So I was asking Aaron because Aaron works on a lot of Porsches with his winning formula shop, and he
Yep.
said sometimes he doesn't know about the street cars, but people will go out in different diameters that will trigger an AVS fault, but it happens like in the first couple feet of it rolling, and then if you go
Yeah.
drive it for like a mile or two slowly, just so you're not in danger, you just go take it for a mile cruise and come back. The car will actually recalibrate itself. But he doesn't know if it will do that on the street cars.
I'm saying driving dynamically because the tire's undersized and it's going to be pretty short. I'll be curious if the car like behaves properly. Let alone like the electrics are that's a good point too. Like the overall diameters have to stay pretty similar, but if it learns over time that then it won't be freaking out. It'll just be curious if the car is actually nice to drive.
You're thinking because the 305s are the only tires in the rear that it might not be enough?
Yeah, plus the sidewall size is maybe not the like generally Porsche's like a pretty wide rear fitment with like a decent amount of sidewall because all the stuff's back there.
I
But
could see that. Now,
I didn't try it firsthand because we ran out of time. We were trying to the Potenza race, excuse me, and it was very fast, but it wore out too fast for one lap. So we didn't use those. That's why we ended up on the 300 treadwear last year.
so the so Brian or Brian Peters. It was Brian
Yep,
Peters, right? Yeah. And John Hogan, they were running like a 700 some horsepower Corvette with the 305s in the rear, and they seemed to make it work.
correct. But
So I
that's
know
what I'm
what you're
curious
saying.
about.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
The Cayman had 130 less horsepower. It weighs about the same, and we were on like 255 305s. So it will wear the rear a little bit more, and that was something I was practicing this weekend. Is like, okay, I'm gonna drive the car, and I'm gonna do this as fast as laps possible with the least amount of rear drama because normally I kind of just let it hang, just like yeah, whatever. Like it's not affecting the lap time, but maybe it's like affecting tire wear, right?
Yep.
I was trying to be super accurate with my power down and how I was like twisting the car into corners. So I wasn't going for any slides because I think that's how we're going to have to drive if we do the Bridgestones during one lap. So we still have tire at the end. I I think there's like a window that the tire will sit in, and you can drive it at the ragged edge of that window, and you can drive it at the very beginning of that window, and it will be the same lap time. So what we're trying to do is see what the tire wear is if we're trying to be at the beginning of that window. So
Yep. That makes sense.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. Road Atlanta should be a good test. If anything, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse than one lap because the tires aren't going to get a good chance to cool off. But the amount of laps and sessions that we do will be, it's a little bit more than the amount of sessions we'll do at one lap. So we'll run them for that weekend. We'll look at the wear, and if it looks like it will at least get us to the end, then I think that's what we'll be running as long as it doesn't do any weird quirks on the driving. But there are tuning things that we can do. Like we could change the ride height in the rear if it's like too loose or sway bars or and
Yep.
I'm not afraid to start changing stuff on the car to make it do what it should. So we'll see.
Right. I hope it works.
Same.
And then I'll feel like Boo Boo the fool for not using them last year.
uh, I'm surprised you didn't even try them.
We ran out of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm happy that Peter's like doing one lap prep like 7 months before one lap because
Yeah.
we actually get a chance to go over this if the car survives the hurricane, Tom, because it's like in a direct path of Milton right now.
It looks like it looks I haven't seen a lot from today that it was bad. We're recording this on Wednesday,
Wednesday,
obviously.
dude. The storm's not even there yet. The outlying clouds are throwing down like 20 tornadoes this afternoon. That was kind of like the preemptive strike force of the hurricane. It's a pretty
Crazy.
gnarly storm, dude.
Yeah.
The good
Hey,
news
if you're
for
in that
Peter,
area, take care of yourself.
yes, please. Why are you listening to this podcast? Get out.
because you're somewhere else, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully you're somewhere else. But Peter's on the east side, but it's still like gonna go right over him. So hopefully he's okay.
You should have left it in Kentucky. It's safer there. Although I don't know what the sinkholes, maybe not.
It swallows it up. It only swallows up Corvettes. He'll be good.
That's right.
I should let Mike Kubiak know that to not leave his Corvette out there though. Are you going to Time Trial Nationals?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
I need to find a ride yet, but
Okay.
I'm planning on going.
All right, good. If that weekend
Dude,
without Tom O'Gorman doesn't sound like Time Trial Nationals.
Did you see the PT Cruiser guy who wanted to like loan his car out for someone to drive?
Yeah. You almost
I thought about
messaged
doing
him?
that. I thought about it. I was like, what? Why can I make this worthwhile? And I couldn't quite find the angle. So, guys, there was this friend of ours that we kind of know through other groups and stuff that he bought a PT Cruiser. He always has weird cars. They have a weird Lemons like Mini Cooper that's like all cut up and stuff. But it's a PT Cruiser, and he posted it on the time trial group for SCCA saying, "Hey, I want to either rent or loan this car out to somebody different for time trial nationals." And it's just like a silver PT Cruiser. It's a terrible car.
It looks like a car that would
I was
just
like-
be driving on the road.
Right. Maybe that would be fun. But I feel like a session in it would be fun. 4 days straight in that car would not be fun.
That's
So
exactly what I thought too. What would be cool is if like the whole event got one flying lap in it and we had like a little leaderboard. Because
Right.
that would be a good time. Like we all
That
chip
would
in.
be-
We all chip in. Like donate.
Yeah.
Like what? Like Bridgestone donates the tires. Like I don't think we make brake pads for the PT Cruiser, but we'll chip in for the brakes. Like Hawkwood, and then it's just like donations to the car owner to for everyone to like set one lap in it. We should do something like that.
down.
Dude, we should do something like that next year.
All right. If you're listening to this, Alan, let's make it happen. Alan's
Yeah.
the owner of the car.
Alan, let's
think.
make sure the PT Cruiser survives this year so we can have it as a valuable asset next year.
Yeah.
We'll sticker bomb it with like $300 worth of lizard brain stickers.
It'll just be coated, full wrap, but only in stickers.
It wouldn't even be a wrap. It's just stickers. We'll get big ones made, so maybe it doesn't have to be 300.
We could make it look like a brain. PT Cruisers kind of look like a brain
They kind of look
if
like
they
a brain.
flip.
And then we'll put a lizard on the roof, like the logo. Oh,
Right.
I love this idea. It's coming together.
I love when we come up with great ideas. That'll never happen in the future.
Guys, you guys, everyone's getting an inside view of how me and Tom come up with ideas. This is literally it.
This is how the podcast started, I think.
I think it is.
And then we'll do emails. And
Yeah.
here we are.
And then every once in a while, we'll watch a movie and talk about it.
Right. We're due for a movie.
We are due for a movie. What's a good movie? Somebody in the chat. First one who comes up with one, that's what we'll watch. Go.
Oh no, that's asking for disaster.
I know, isn't it gonna be fun?
I kind of want to hate watch like Fast and Furious or something. The hate watching Gran
No.
Turismo was so fun.
That's not hate watch.
That was one of my favorite things I've ever done on this
That's not hate
podcast.
watch. We're gonna watch that. Okay. I remember this was back in my Halo days. I lived with a bunch of people who played Halo. It was like a Halo house. And my roommate, Richard, really liked Fast and Furious, and it always triggered me because it was so unrealistic. That was my angle. Because I was like,
So
why?
even then, you were like all about that. Like you do car life enough that you were like, that's not real.
No. My biggest hang up was on one particular scene where they're like trying to get on this airplane and they're all like chasing the airplane down with their cars. And the scene was like 20 minutes long and the plane is like takeoff speed. And if you did the math, the runway's like 19 miles long. And the whole time I'm just raging in the theater about what runway is this? Because it doesn't exist.
That
And
sounds horrible.
I remember my roommate, we were eating after and I couldn't shut up about the stupid runway. And he like literally turned to me, he was super serious. He's like, DJ, just shut up already. Because I couldn't shut up about the stupid runway.
Yeah, I've never seen any of them. I don't even know which one that is, but we could hate watch one of them.
I don't remember which one that is.
I don't feel like they would be good to watch though.
The only one that I think is any good is Tokyo Drift. And it's not because it's a good movie. It just pulls on like the right heartstrings. It pulls on the like, I want to be a part of this community. You try too hard at first and it kind of alienates everyone. You have like
Don't spoil it for me.
you okay. I won't spoil it, Tom. But
Wait,
then
so this guy comes in, he's like an outcast, and then
yeah,
by
he's
the
like an
end, he's part of
outcast,
the
but
crew.
he really wants to be like part of this like drifting group because that's what the not the second movie. I meant the third movie, which was Tokyo Drift. That's the one I'm talking about. Everyone else was like screaming at their car windshield like the second movie was terrible. What is
Oh,
DJ talking about? What?
I finished your Fast and Furious, and I have a story about that from the runoffs.
Oh,
Looking like an
okay.
idiot.
Well, basically, the story arc of the main character is very relatable to anybody who is like tried to become a new member in any community, and I think that's why like it's an enjoyable watch of a movie.
Gotcha. We could try it. If you have any movie recommendations, the other two movies we watched were Soul, and then we read the book, The Art of Racing in the Rain, which was pretty good.
Yeah, and then we watched Gran Turismo.
And then we hate watched Gran Turismo. On runoffs day, there's this guy named Scotty B. White who has multiple cars in multiple classes. This is about feeling like an idiot. So he was running. Normally, they would pair up like Touring 2 and Touring 3. And Touring 2 is like Corvettes and Porsches and some stuff like that. And then Touring 3 is like 370Zs and BMW E46s and that. So they're like pretty different speeds, right? And the second day they were in mixed qualifying sessions, so he couldn't drive both cars. He had to pick one. And he has a Viper that's in Touring 2, and he's got a Mustang that's in Touring 3. And somehow he was in his Mustang. No, he was scored as his Mustang in his Viper. So he like goes to the top on his outlap in the class that's like he's in a Viper against 370Zs. And by the end of the session, he's like 15 miles an hour faster in the trap speeds, and he's like 3 seconds up on the field. And I'm just like, Colin, what's happening? Like, it's the greatest thing that's ever happened since sliced bread. And oh my God, he's on fire. And he's look at how fast his trap speeds are. And
because you don't have
I guarantee
cameras. You don't have cameras that like where you see it's a Viper.
yeah, nothing. And if I'd looked up for like the right period of time for them to go across just in front of us, I would have seen that it was the Viper. But I didn't. So I guarantee everybody, the entire session, it was like the most interesting thing in my brain happening in that session. I just talked about it the whole time. They're all like, God, this idiot doesn't know what he's talking about. We're all watching this Viper on track. Obviously, it's a Viper.
Oh, dang it.
He got me good on that one.
Yeah, he did.
Good.
I think he got himself though, because I doubt I doubt any of those times stayed around.
Yeah,
So
probably not.
hold on. So Scotty B pulls into grid and he sees a bunch of 370Zs and he like doesn't, or is he just like, well, I'm here, or was he trying to get like extra practice in the Viper and didn't mind starting in the back, or
Touring 2 and Touring 3 were sharing the session.
oh,
So
okay,
they were all on track together. It was just I bet he put his transponder on the wrong car or something, you know.
or the wrong transponder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's what happened. Because that was his Touring 3 transponder.
I think that was the dumbest moment of my weekend. I don't think I had that many other flubs.
That's not too bad if that's it.
Yeah. Luckily.
Man, what would it be like
Should we
to
do,
own multiple race cars?
So there was that one guy that we talked about that did 5. He did GT1, GT2, GT3. He did, okay, let's count the cars. It was a Trans Am car. This is Tony Ave. He's got a Trans Am car that's like a TA1 car. And then he's got a 911 Cup car, like a 991.2. That's in GT2. And then he's got, he's got this tube frame RX-7.
Was that
No,
the
a tube
blue
frame Civic. A tube frame, like 10th gen Civic bodied thing.
Oh, I saw that
That's rear wheel
thing.
drive. Yeah. And he races that in GT3. And then where else? Formula Atlantic. So like the fastest Formula cars there.
Wait, that car was rear wheel drive?
That blue Civic is rear wheel drive. Yeah, because it's a whole tube frame thing. It's a K24 with a drive shaft and rear wheel drive.
I feel embarrassed that I didn't notice I was watching it for like a whole lap and I didn't notice that it wasn't moving like a front wheel drive car. Tom, I'm washed.
Well, they don't really move that much because they're like GT cars.
Okay. Thank you for helping.
So I
me
get
there.
how you did that. Yeah. I get how you did
Ivan
that. And then he
Munoz
did one
cooked.
other one. Oh, we had a GT4 McLaren in Touring 1. No, GT4 Mercedes. So Trans Am car, 911 GT Cup car, tube frame Civic rear wheel drive little race car, Formula Atlantic, and a GT4 car. That
That's
was
a
that
lot of
man's week.
racing. That is a lot of racing.
Yeah.
I would be kind of tired.
I think you could. There's a moment you can tell that he kind of gets tired in the weekend. Actually, I think
He's like, yeah, you know
because he
what?
like
I'm done.
he quits one race early. Yeah.
He quit it early.
You know, like if that was your only race of the weekend and something was going a little awry with the car or something, you might stay
Tough it out or
you might like
whatever.
stay out. But he's just like, nah, what's the point?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Should we do a couple emails since we were a little behind on those?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else from your
sure.
weekend? I kind of don't. I'm sure people are tired of the runoffs at this point.
I got to drive Eric Coutil's car.
Oh, how was that?
I didn't fit in the seat. So
That's tough.
I had to put so many pads in the seat that when I turned, I kind of just fell out of the seat. So
I've done that once before. That's weird.
it was
You're
really
like
hard.
no longer in the containment part of the seat. You're just
Yeah.
like level with it.
Yep, my shoulder, like in like some of the sustained right hand turns, like 1 and 2, I was just like on the door, like, and the steering wheel was like way off to the side, and I'm like, and like since I've like keeled over, now I can't. I was already having trouble seeing over the dash, and then as I was keeled over, I could see even less under the dash, or over the dash.
So it was fun. I can't
I
tell.
could see how it would be fun. You know what? Eric's car turns so well. I don't know how Eric does it, because I've driven a lot of front wheel drive cars, but Eric's car turns so well on throttle compared to other front wheel drive cars that I've driven.
Have you never drove a ZG?
I did, but that was even worse. I literally couldn't see over the dash. I went out for one lap and went, "This is dangerous," and came in. This time I brought a
Sure.
bunch of pads because I wanted to be prepared for any car that I might be able to drive. And those pads probably were just enough to drive Eric's car.
Sure. Yeah, I remember. I don't know exactly what the mechanical like specifics are, but there's something about those older Hondas or older touring cars, like front wheel drive stuff. You put that aggressive diff in them, and they just like they friggin' dig. When you're on throttle and you're pointed some direction, the steering wheel, unless you break front traction, the car will just go there.
Yeah.
And I don't like TCR cars are not like that. Your Civic's not really like that.
Nope.
My TCA car was not like that. I don't know what the difference specifically is. I think Kevin's about to try to tell me.
I don't know what it was.
He says,
Oh, Kevin's.
no, he's
hold on.
agreeing off mic. So he's saying that that the cars, even with the open diffs, like the 90s Civics, just feel. I agree. Like the 90s open diff Civic, like EF stuff, and like STS, when you like get the throttle down without breaking traction, they just pull
Yeah.
the right direction. There's like something so good about the geometry from that era, I guess. I don't know. And then
Something.
maybe it's a specific kind of diff
Maybe
that locks that way.
I would be on
don't know.
power, following the rear to the edge of the racetrack. It felt
Yeah.
good. Now, the issue I had with the car is that it was a little tough to feel the front end on entries. It was tough to like really know what the front tires were doing. It was really easy to underdrive the front end, especially on entries. On exits, it didn't. On exits, it felt like you had more of a sensation of like the slip of the front tires, and you were kind of just following the rear to the edge of the racetrack anyways.
I think it's because the diff is so aggressive, the way that it's basically not working when you're turning in. So like, do you notice the car was like vague and bland and terrible until you got back on throttle?
Yeah, that's what I was telling Eric. But I couldn't quite put my finger on like what you would change to fix that.
I don't know that you can maintain how good it is on throttle without
Maybe.
and fix the entry better, you know?
You would have to like build up such like a not a muscle memory, but like a an innate feel to what you have on the front end. And since you don't get a lot of communication, it would be really easy to mess it up. Honestly, it's super impressive what Eric's doing with that car, because it was pretty tough to drive, especially with the lack of ABS and the amount of brake pressure that the car requires. Just something that I'm not used to. The amount of
Yeah.
brake pressure. I think if I drove more cars where you really have to stand on the pedals, and if I wasn't like stretching with my little baby legs to try to touch the pedals, then it might
Yep.
have been a little easier for me. But yeah, man, that outlap, I hope to, like, Eric, if you're listening, which I know he's not, please never post that outlap, because that is the most awkward lap of my life. I look like a novice autocrosser, Tom. Like, I was like, what is happening in this car? Uh,
That yeah, maybe we should get it. I would post my first good car if you post yours.
I
Uh,
We can
um,
watch it together, but it's not going public. I'll
there we
watch it
go.
with the podcast listeners in the Discord at some point. But it's not like I'm gonna post it on YouTube. That would end me. Somebody would be like, DJ Alessandrini, like literally like 10 years from now, DJ Alessandrini looking for sponsorship. Google, Eric Catil, I've heard of him. Oh, he's driving a sedan. You watch it, you're
Yeah,
like, huh, what? No, gross. Delete it. Delete his email.
he's fired. Fired before he's hired. Um, on that though, that was kind of the style car that I did the most seat time in when I was growing, like learning, not learning, coming up in road racing. Like my first Civic was like that, and then I was driving cars like Mike Taylor's car and like STL cars, and you drove Adam Jabay's Civic CRX for a couple races, and I drove Eric's Civic EG for a couple races, and like all of those cars fit that category where you drive that way. And if you're not quite following what we're talking about, it's basically you have to be on some amount of throttle to make the front end really do anything. If you're just off throttle, the front end is not happy to do much. And as weird as that sounds, that's the best way to put it. So you have to drive the car in a way that you're on throttle, like at turn in, but only a little bit or like just past it, so that when the car picks up, it like starts pulling itself through the corner really, really early. So you end up braking earlier, releasing the brake earlier. You're basically not trail braking because you're braking in a way to get back to throttle, not
Yeah.
trail brake into the corner. And then you have to like get the car on throttle as early as possible, manage the traction, but then also use that to pull yourself through the corner all the way to the edge of the track. And it's a very unique driving style, but it also, I don't know why do you think that would make you a I think that style made me better because it's so weird. Like it's easy to go back to a more normal thing. I haven't been in a car like that in a long time. Actually, I'd be curious to get back in one.
I think it's be I think it's like part of that vagueness on entry. It's like it's your training weights for feeling the tires. Like you're feeling the tires through all that vagueness. And then when
Yeah,
you jump into another car, maybe this is a running theory that's probably completely wrong, but we're just recording a podcast here, everyone. Uh that
it's not
may-
that serious.
that maybe you get in another car and you just feel like all this extra information of what's happening on entry. So now you have all this extra confidence on entry.
Yeah, maybe. I'm trying to think if there. I mean, the only thing that this is actually kind of the specific reason that Kenton and I struggled that first day that we told stories about, where I just felt out of my element because he wanted the car to drive more and more and more like a GT3 car, like a prototype car, where you trail brake in and you're managing that weight, and it's very similar on entry and exit, right?
Yeah.
And I was so used to these front wheel drive cars that were just brake early, not a lot of trail brake, turn in early, turn in. I don't even know if it's early. It's just turn in and get back to throttle early. Um, and it rattled me to like, oh, I don't know how to drive this car. But then the more we pushed it towards that front wheel drive style, it got faster and faster and faster. Why did I tell that story? Oh, because those I don't know, those cars just drive so specific. If anything, I struggled with the idea of carrying entry speed as the faster way to drive. You know, when
Yeah.
I got into other cars, especially like the S2000s or something, those are so entry speed reliant and like trail brake reliant. It's like everything is trail brake and entry speed with the S2, like totally opposite. And I had to like wrap my brain. Or it's kind of like when you shift from autocross to road course, you have to shift your mentality from cut distance to carry speed. It's very much in the same. Like instead of brake early, turn in and get on throttle early, you have to like actually carry speed into the corner and get on throttle what feels really late. I think a lot of front wheel drive drivers who get really fast, if they get into other cars, they don't feel comfortable because you have to get on. You basically are willing to get on throttle much later.
Yeah. I also drove a podcast listener, Zach, the pilot, Zach, that has offered us to go mess around in that simulator. He was there
Yeah.
in his Honda Fit, and we left the pits going toward turn one, and I was just like, you probably like brake at the one or like hardly even brake. You probably just like turn in to one because like you're like the speed of that corner is about like 80 ish, like a little maybe a little faster. And that's about how fast I was going. I forgot how gnarly fits are with the cold rear tires. Tom, I did both 1 and 2 and I never turned right. I was sideways through the whole time. And the way Zach was describing it, he was like, we were talking about it after his initial thought was, huh, I'm doing this wrong. And I was like, no, no, Zach, I was doing it wrong.
Yeah. That's so funny. Oh man. So did he not have some sort of inkling of like maybe you just didn't do that very well in that moment?
Well, I think we went through the thing and I think I yelled like the rear wants to be the front or something like that. Probably didn't hear me
Sure.
because because we're in a car on a racetrack, so you can't really hear.
In a race car?
Yeah, we were in a race car, so you can't.
Very serious
It's
race
very hard
car.
to hear anything with its air conditioning on full blast. So,
Right.
but once the rear kind of activated, it actually drove really nice. It was just very hard to hold the necessary amount of speed at Putnam because all the corners are super fast. You know where like the hardest corner on a racetrack is the corner where you have to shave off like 5 to 10 miles an hour. That was like
Yeah.
every corner at Putnam in a Honda Fit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And after
My
driving the
red
GT,
fit when I
go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh,
That red fit that they loaned me was the first place I drove it was Putnam because I had a track night that I was working, so I could test it for free.
yeah.
And it was so by the end of the day, I was just driving to little puffs of dust on either side of the track in my mirrors. Like I would just track out, and then I would look to the mirror, puff, perfect.
You're like, yeah, nailed it. Yeah. So after driving a GT3 RS, it was funny. I pulled up to.
It's a big contrast.
I did it. Yeah, I did. I did like 2 or 3 sessions in GT3 RS, and then Zach's like, "Hey, you want to drive?" I'm like, "Yeah, hold on one second." And I like went and grabbed my helmet, and then I was like, "Oh, I should let Peter know." So I drive up to Peter in this Fit, and I go, "Hey, Peter, I upgraded," and then just drove away. So
He probably loved that.
yeah, it was probably pretty funny. Um,
If you ever get a chance to drive a welded diff front wheel drive car, do it.
okay, I don't
Because
know when I'll get that chance, but sure.
I
Tom
don't know why
advice.
you would get that a chance either. But there was a guy, the car that I did my first wheel to wheel season, like nose to nose with. Like we were just fighting the entire season. It was a 1985 Renault Encore. Renault Alliance? Which one? Hang on. I gotta fact check this. Renault. Did you never see it was a Renault Encore. Yes.
I don't even know what that
1985
is.
Renault Encore.
Can you post a picture in
Look
the
it
thing?
up. It yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
I want to find an actual picture of the car itself, but this is like this is just a stock version. Um, and it had a welded diff, and he let me drive it once the year after we were no longer. We literally finished door handle to door handle every single like 6 of the 9 races we did together that year. It was amazing racing. It was so good because he had like the bigger engine and I had the handling, so we would just ebb and flow like all the way through these races. It was so fun.
I feel
But
like
he
it
let me
would
drive it
drive
a year
like a
later, and it had a
go-kart.
welded diff, which in kind of to your point about like Eric's car doesn't turn unless you're on throttle.
Yeah.
This thing literally does absolutely nothing until you're on throttle. And driving in a way that like you're literally coming into every corner and then turning in onto the throttle to like pull the car through the corner.
Like at entry,
But
you're
if you
still
didn't do it
you're still on the edge
at
of the
entry,
racetrack.
yes, and then but because if you just turn, it will not turn. And like the diff is obviously helping the wheels spin at different speeds. So if they're just locked together, the car doesn't want to turn
Yeah.
because it's all in the front. It was horrible. I looked like it was like your outlap. I looked like the biggest freaking idiot in that car because he also had the pedals set up in a way that I couldn't heel toe it. So I was like not able to heel toe and needing to be on throttle at turn in. It was at pit race, and I was just driving around like I had never driven a race car before. I felt like such an idiot.
That's a bad
And
feeling.
I was like, I lost to this guy a couple times. What the hell?
That's how I felt in Eric's car on the outlap. I was like, what? Do
Yeah.
I even know how to do this?
Yeah, I don't know how you're doing this, but you're so impressive. Yeah.
Like I eventually started to get the hang of Eric's car. And then I just came in because I'm like, man, my legs getting tired stretching for this clutch. And I felt like I got the gist of the car. Eric was just asking me like, hey, I want your impressions of it. So like if there's any low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was like, yeah, I think I got like that. I was like, I don't need to set a lap time in it. So like, I'm just going to come in. But
Oh, I found the actual car. I found a picture of the actual car.
the actual
that I
car,
raced against. Yeah.
All right, bring it up, Tom. Oh, by the
Guys,
way,
look at this.
Tom, everyone noticed you being a car guy on stream for the SCCA runoffs.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, naming off engine codes and
Oh, that's the scariest moment of my entire commentating is somehow confidently rattling off what I said. Shit, what did I say? I said B22 as a Honda engine. That's not an engine. And then I had to correct myself, but I caught it.
But then
It's a close
you were
call.
like talking about BMW engines, and then you like brought up like, oh yes, this class is allowed a 13B rotary, and then you like caught yourself. You're like, wait, who am I?
Yeah.
I love that. That was a good moment.
Carlton's been rubbing off on me, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. People were calling out Carlton in the chat. Did you see that?
In what chat? No.
In the YouTube chat, people were like, who is that Carlton?
Nuh-uh.
Stuff like that. Yeah, dude.
They're talking about our little podcast on the
And
SCCA
that,
broadcast. feed?
yeah, people were. Isn't that cool?
That's so cool. I hope. I mean, there's obviously people in here, so whoever that was, that's pretty cool. Thank you.
I mean, we only assume that they're in the Discord. We have more listeners that are in this Discord. So, guys, let that be let that be a notice that we know that you're not in here, person, and you're thinking, well, you're not talking about
And
me.
we know where you live.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about you, the person who just thought that.
Greg.
There's a link, Greg, John. That's a common name. That's why I said that name. We might have all the Johns. I'm not sure. We have quite a few Johns in here. So, anyways, there's a link in the description. If you just click it, even if you don't have a Discord account, it prompts you to make one. It's like it takes less than 5 minutes, and you're in the Discord. I would suggest downloading the app so you can kind of check it and be part of the community. There's the chat is more and more active every day, and there's just people helping each other, and yeah, just discussion about the podcast. So just kind of add to your listening enjoyment by joining the community. Tom,
And we appreciate everyone who's already here. What?
it's actually kind of surprising. So you posted those 2 pictures of that Renault, and you posted this one that looks like it came right off the factory floor, and then the one that's a race car looks almost the same. It looks
Yeah.
lowered.
with
That's
cooler
it.
wheels. That's about it.
It's lowered with numbers on it.
Yeah.
And it has a window net. That's
Dude.
about it.
That's what they raced. I gotta say, I mean, we had some amazing stories from Greg and me about this last year when he was on the podcast during the runoffs. If you haven't gone back in the archive and you're newer to listening, it was really fun. It was Greg's like career club racer and has come up through all the SCCA stuff like 30 years probably prior to our generation, like DJs and I. So he's got all this amazing stories from like the 80s and 90s of like the heyday of club racing and like 50 car fields with bolt-in cages that they rented at the rental car at the airport just to come get the fast car for the championship and all this stuff. And those stories make me realize every time, like, man, we're in a heyday of racing, but we're not in the heyday of racing. Like we missed that like late 80s into early 90s grassroots, and like, dude, we would be,
You know, people always
our
say
lives
that.
would be so different if we were live then.
Maybe. But people always say that. But like, let's remember for a moment. Are you drinking booze on the podcast, Tom? Is that what that was?
I have a little margarita. Is that okay, Dad?
This is a professional environment, damn it.
Oops.
So, you know, people always reminisce about like the heyday of racing and stuff, but like remember like 20 years ago, basically nobody made a brake pad that could like survive a 20-minute session. Like you were having to manage your brakes like while you were racing. So,
Yeah, the amount of mechanical issues this weekend, that is a good point, because there's like a lot more race engines there, and just the car braking is like a thing way more than the cars that we race braking.
like 20, 30 years ago, cars were braking way more than they brake now, and they already brake too much now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can like, oh, the heyday, but you know what? I'm fine where I'm at right now, Tom, because Porsche makes a car that just does 1 million laps and then is fine with it, which is pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. How fast do you think it would go if it didn't have to do 1 million laps?
Like if it was designed to brake in less than 1 million laps?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm willing to find out though. Peter,
I don't want to know. No, 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 don't ruin it.
don't
Hey, we
ruin
should
it.
do emails before we run out of time
Okay, all right.
again.
Let's do some emails. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. You're talking no mic questions, right?
Yeah,
All right. What do we got?
do the thing.
Oh, yeah. Emails. All right, which one are you looking at, Tom? You want to start off?
I like this question. I think it's from is IJ Miller Ian? Is that intern Ian?
Yes, that is Hawk Performance intern Ian Miller.
Okay, we're making sure. I didn't read this question before about being on the limit, right?
I don't think so.
Okay, so the question is from our friend Ian Miller. As someone who's still in the beginning part of their motorsports journey, I hear the phrase on the limit quite a bit, as it's extremely important to be on the limit to set fast lap times. However, for someone who may not have the most experience, what are the eureka moments where you are doing laps where you knew you were on the limit? Can it be when you have to open the wheel to negotiate a corner? That's the question.
So how do you know
How
when
do you
you're
know when you're on the limit?
how do you know when you're at the limit, Tom?
That's a good question.
How do you know that you're at the limit? Because for me, it kind of feels like it's when the steering wheel is more of a suggestion.
It's definitely part of that. Yeah, like if I'm turning the car with the steering wheel more than the weight, I'm not at the limit.
Yeah.
Um, the steering wheel is the adjustment knob, not like the main control of where I'm going.
Yeah.
Part of it is tire noise. Part of it is weight in the steering wheel. Like with the car, when it loses grip, the steering wheel tends to get lighter. As long as you don't have like wildly overboosted power steering, like an ND or something.
Uh,
Um,
yeah. On entry, you might feel like load initially into the steering wheel before like the rear starts to pivot around. For like really
right.
breaking it down into like a granular detail. I don't think
Mhm.
you're not thinking of these things as it's happening though.
No, 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 no. And then like honestly, the things that I use are basically like I identify the maximum braking potential of the car, and then I apply that to braking zones, or I apply that to knowing where the exit of the corner is if we're talking autocross, because autocross doesn't have braking zones.
Yeah.
Um,
I was actually talking about this a little bit at Putnam. I forget who I was talking about it with, so sorry if it was somebody that listens to the podcast. But just knowing where the brake marker is for turn 1, that's huge when like coming up to speed in a car. Cuz you're like, "Okay, brake there. Okay, this is what the car can do. Oh, this is how it felt on entry. Okay, now I'm going to apply that to the rest of the racetrack."
yeah, yeah, and then past that, it's like, did I end up to the edge of the track on exit with everything else having gone according to plan? Which sounds like a very bad. That's bad advice, but that's kind of how I assess. Was I at the limit for myself? Is that too basic?
I don't know. I feel like we sounded like a bunch of witch doctors. I don't know if we actually said anything.
maybe, maybe. How do you know you're on the limit? Do you? I guess I've never thought about that.
I
If
think
anything, I have to worry about myself being over the limit and pull myself in a little bit.
I think on a racetrack I dial in where the brake marker is. And then and the way I dial that in is I there's like a specific point at the inside of the corner where as you get into throttle, your trajectory sends you to the last inch of racetrack. And I want to get to that point barely with the car, not at the limit of adhesion on just the outside front, but also the outside rear. So the more I can have the car at the limit of adhesion on both of those tires, as I get to that point where I get on power to the edge of the racetrack, then that would be like the limit of that corner, like theoretically. I think Ian reading the question again, he's just wanting to know like how do we know we're at the limit of the car? And I think to me I think it comes back to that steering wheel thing where it's like you said, it's a tuning knob rather than like it completely deciding the direction of where the car is going.
Yeah. So his comment, like, can it be when you have to open the wheel to negotiate a corner? Meaning, like, if you were to get to the apex and the car is balanced in a way that you have to like straighten your wheel out instead of keep turning it harder. Is that the limit? That's actually it's probably not something to drive to, but it's like a pretty good indicator that you're, at the limit, because that implies that you're not turning with the front of the car. It implies that the weight is evenly on the outside front and rear tires, like you were talking about.
Yeah. I
So that's part of it, but I wouldn't necessarily drive to that, Ian, or anybody.
when
It's
when when I'm coaching somebody and it seems like they're like the time they're leaving on the table is by just being a little too careful on throttle, like on exit. The thing that we'll talk about is like I want them to preemptively aim the front of the car at track exit and then use the throttle to also get the rear there. So they're not driving out there, but the front is going out there anyways, and the rear is following along at the limit of adhesion, right?
yeah.
So, and limited adhesion, that's I, I don't know, that's like an innate feeling. It's like put your hand on the table and then like push against it where the limit of your hand is about to break free, or maybe it just slips a little bit. There's like an innate feeling of when it's about to break free, right? You have that same feeling when you're sitting in the car with the tires. Like you just have an innate feeling of when they're breaking free. And it's like when it just starts to slip. Now, if you push your hand too hard, too abruptly, then it's going to like move across the table. But if you like add pressure slowly into it, you'll gather like a little bit of a memory of how much weight you can put against your hand where it just starts to kind of glide across like the surface of the table.
I like the way you describe that. So let me ask, as you're driving more powerful cars more, something like the Porsche or maybe Ito's Corvette, something that you've driven a couple times, especially on a road course, have you found yourself having to think about like, am I doing that chase the car to the edge of the track thing that you're describing? Have you
I'll
started to have
notice.
to think about them as like laterally doing that or longitudinally doing that yet? Did that make sense?
So the thing that I still think I have some room to grow in is where where I do that preemptive aim the front at the exit of the track because then I'll put down power more effectively. Uh, I think right now, I think I think I'm like opening the wheel in anticipation that I'm going to get the rear to move. But what I would like to do is angle like to point the front of the car in anticipation that I'm going to make the rear move. Does that make sense? Like this, it's a very minute difference, but the second one is going to equate a faster lap time.
Say that one more time.
So I think historically the way I've driven it. Oh, hold on, I got a cough. All right, I'm back. Historically, I've added power and I haven't reacted, but I've opened the wheel in anticipation that like the rear is moving, and I'll like do that at the same rate. But I think what would be faster is if I preemptively like took bind out of the front and I aim the front of the car toward the exit as I squeeze into power. So instead of like matching the slip of the rear with my opening of the wheel, I just get rid of the slip of the like I can put more power in like with the second way. I can put more power in sooner with less drama on the car.
Yes, you're getting at what I'm going for because it's basically just something I wanted to verbalize.
Oh,
Oh,
they
am I
turned the
alive?
lights. They turned the lights off on Tom.
We
Oh,
were sitting
it's
still in here
back.
too long. Thankfully, Kevin's here.
Oh, thanks,
Um,
Kevin.
yeah, the thing that I've learned to decipher through years of having to verbalize the way I drive is, especially with more power. For example, the C7 Corvette ZR1 that I was doing one lap in, right? On 300 treadwear tires, the lateral capabilities of that car were pretty terrible. Think of lateral as the outside two tires. The outside two tires were not very good at doing very much work. But if I could shift the weight as early as possible to the rear two tires, it was pretty good at that. So I drove that car in a way that it fundamentally it just becomes more point and shoot, right? But you're focusing on chasing the car to the edge of the track with both rear tires mostly loaded and the front's not doing because that outside front was just not as good as if I were to get the weight back.
Yeah.
So I'm still chasing it to the edge of the track, but I'm not chasing it laterally on the outside front and rear tire. I'm like chasing it on the rear tires. And I find that with the 911 a little bit with Salil's car, which has mostly been on 200 treadwear or 300 treadwears as well. Um, like Camaros, Mustangs, pony cars, stuff like that. Like being able to decipher, it's always the outside rear tire, but is it more productive to keep the weight on the outside front and rear, or is it more productive to like get the rear going by getting both rear tires loaded and focusing on like longitudinal acceleration? And I noticed myself fluffing our like fluffing throttle thing. Like if I wanted to keep it laterally loaded for as long as my brain told me to, relative to like an S2000 or a Miata, which can basically be full throttle, but you're loaded on the outside of the car
Yeah,
all the
like
way to the edge of the track.
yeah, like the weight.
Um,
So like on entry, the weight moves slowly around the outside, and then that same rate that the weight's moving around. Historically, I think I would get on power, and that weight would move at the same speed around the edge of the car, past the door, and then to like the outside rear corner. But with the
mhm.
more powerful cars, I think the speed on entry, like the weight moving, is the same as no matter what the speed of the car is. But on an exit, I actually want to move that weight to the rear faster, so then I can
Way earlier. Yeah.
commit to throttle harder, because that's going to net the faster lap time. And I think that's like the biggest learning curve that I've had
Mhm.
driving the faster cars this year.
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so you're finding that.
I think I'm doing a better job putting it together, and it's equating into more consistent, repeatable laps.
Yeah, yeah. I was just finding myself kind of stuck at partial throttle for a period. I didn't, and I wasn't. I'm not a very active driver. I was not a very active driver until I started coaching way more, as far as deciphering what I'm doing. But
I
realizing like
so like
shifting that mentality from like lateral momentum to like sometimes momentum is like more longitudinal in certain cars, and I think that's a interesting like topic people don't talk about as often.
so that like partial throttle thing. I think the hardest corner at Putnam to like figure that out was 8, because it's like this really long left-hander, and then eventually you go up a
Hmm.
hill and it kind of crests a hill, and you'll get loose when you get to the top of that hill. So you need to have the car pointed a specific direction. But like how you get it pointed is a little tough because of like the radius and how like long the corner, like how long you're in that corner. It's like you think it's like a little bit more than 180 degrees, and it's just a very large corner. Do you know the degrees of the corner?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah.
I think it's just under 180.
Okay.
It's probably like 150,
But
160
but
degrees.
it's
Yeah.
a large corner. Like you're in the corner. I think you're doing like, I don't know, like 60 to 70 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's fast.
Yeah. So it you don't the weight moves so slowly of like through the whole duration of the corner that at some point it just ends up at your door, and you're like, oh crap, what do I do now? Right. So,
Yep.
because historically, the weight gets to your door, you're like, it's party time. It's time to leave this corner. But if you do that, then you're gonna, it's too early. So like, and then diving in with enough momentum to like slowly move that weight to your door to the point where now it's time to leave the corner was very tough to do. It was very tough to get that to happen, especially on the 911, because eventually like the rear would try to start being the front, and then you're like, well, now I need to get into
Yep.
power. So that partial throttle thing that you're talking about, the fluff, that was very easy to do in 8 as like a almost like it felt like safe, because you're like, I'm at the limit, and the car's not getting loose on me, right? It was very easy to like
Hmm.
be baited into that like partial throttle, like I'm at the limit, I'm doing everything I can, but I wasn't, because if I managed the weight better, then I could have, I would have had more grip on the entry, and then been had a better angle on the exit.
You know, not every topic we do impromptu we nail verbally, but I feel like we're nailing this verbally. I'm really happy with how we're talking about this.
It's I think it's tough. I would say most of the coaching that I do eventually has this conversation in it somewhere, because
Hmm.
so many people, and they don't even notice that you're doing it. And I would if you're sim racing or autocrossing or whatever, what I want you to look for in your telemetry, like if it's SolarStorm or you're like doing you have telemetry for iRacing or even on a racetrack or whatever, what I want you to find is you'll have the acceleration curve where you're going up, you like build a mountain and then you're breaking down. So now the speed trace is going down, and the speed trace is the y-axis, distance is the x-axis. So you built like a triangle. At the bottom of that, if it's not a triangle, you were being fluffy in some way. Like if it's flat
Yep.
on the bottom, then you had the weight on your door and you were just sitting there for far too much distance before you actually started accelerating again. That's what that looks like on data. And there's something to be figured out there with how you could manage the weight better. So you can actually, on the entry phase, you obviously want the weight on the front. And then the longer the weight's on the front, the less time you spend in the corner. And if you do it right, your angle to actually commit and leave that corner should be better. So
Yep.
it will be up
So
nice.
said
Yeah, it'll be nice and pointy on the bottom of that
Exactly.
min speed.
So when you to like drive that home, if you look at your any data on a trace with squiggly lines, and your minimum speed is not a very clear point, if there's a space that you're spending time at minimum speed, adjust something. It's either going to be you're either going to come in faster or you're going to aim to the exit sooner or something.
Yeah, you
But
got to
that's
change the
that's a really good
shape.
point.
Yeah, you got to change the
Yep.
shape. Something needs to be changed. Man,
Agreed.
that is like that probably just cost us at least 75% of our coaching business, Tom.
But you can send tips too.
Stickers.
You know what? I put tips. I put a tip line in the description of all the ASM track tips videos, like we talked about on the podcast one day, and I haven't gotten a single one yet.
Oh my goodness, guys. Oh, Tom, I
People are
should
greedy.
give you tips on Putnam because I watched that like 4 times. I don't see it. It
No, I
needs to
should have
be.
just monetized them way back.
Well, it just needs to be in the video. Hey, if this was useful to you, like please leave us a tip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is we have one more good question that kind of hits this point a little bit more. This is from Trip Skywalker. Longtime grip driver, just picked up my first drift car. Do you think drifting can help make someone a better grip driver or at least make them more confident on the edge? Talking about the limit. Yeah, I fully believe that.
Why? I'm curious.
Because it helps you identify that moment between rotation and slide, because you're intending the car to get into slide, and then you learn to do it's momentum in the same way but applied totally different. You know how in like a slalom, when you're slaloming in an autocross course or in some S's on a road course, and the weight is kind of penduluming from the left to the right side of the car, and you get that cool little like rhythm where the weight is exaggerating what you're doing, and that like helps keep momentum higher. You with me?
Yeah, hold on. I was laughing at Ryan Christoph because he was talking about the like the pointy.
Oh, I didn't have the live chat up. Sorry.
Yeah, because we were talking about having a point at the bottom of your min speed, and Ryan Christoph brought up the one corner where that doesn't apply, which is the carousel at Nürburgring. Though it kind of it applies a little bit, but it's the reason why it doesn't apply is because you have like one car length or width of space in there, so it's not
True.
like you can like diamond it and point it out, right? You just kind of get into the speed of the carousel and then you kind of hang out there and then jump out.
True.
Yeah.
All right. So if you're going to the Nürburgring, you're allowed to have a fluffy carousel.
You got us, Ryan.
Yeah. Shoot, what was I saying? It wasn't as good as Ryan's joke.
Oh shoot. I'm sorry, Tom.
Drifting. Oh, okay.
Drifting,
You know, in a
yeah,
slalom
yeah.
or like ski moguls or S's or whatever, you got that weight, momentum. Now you're doing that, but you're sliding. So you're doing the same thing to a different effect. And it has you dial into where that pendulum point is and where that weight transfer point is, and also identify when the car is in the slide versus like not in the slide.
So
And I feel like generally people are so afraid of sliding or drifting or being sideways on purpose, because that's generally when you either get in trouble, you're over the line, you're going to spin, you're going to crash. You're like none of that's ever even embraced in our form of driving, let alone like allowed or whatever.
So to boil
When
it
you
down,
go to that environment and you do that on purpose, and then you learn how to utilize it to your own advantage again, it's like a whole extra skill set that you now have in reference point. I don't think it's is as important as like some of the other things that we talk about. It's not like you have to go drifting to become a better driver, but I do think it makes a good, especially car control, but just like it gives you that confidence of where that line actually is between grip and no grip.
And like basically to boil it down, you have experience and practice getting a tire at a specific angle of slip, right? Uh, and you have practice and have built up skills to manage the weight of the car. And those will apply.
I think yes. Say it one more time.
You're so I mean when you're driving a car fast, you get it at a specific slip angle where the tire's like in its happy spot, right? So that's gonna be less than
Uh-huh.
drifting, but you still have
Uh-huh.
the experience of getting a tire to a certain slip and then like riding it out. And then in order to do that accurately as a drifter, you have to also be good at managing the weight of the car.
Yes. Okay, that's where I lost you. I totally agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'd be curious, and I'm sure, it's just because I really don't follow other stuff, but I'm sure there's plenty of drifters that have like went road racing and did perfectly fine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of the like I don't know what genre you call them, but the Ken Blocks and the like the Tanner Fausts and that kind of people.
And the Kanu Reeves,
No, I think he was kind of bad, wasn't he? He spun by himself.
I was just, I just think it's cool that like these celebrities, these actors and actresses, like you got like Ricky, shoot, what's the Malcolm in the Middle guy's name? Something Muniz,
Frankie Muniz.
Frankie
Yeah,
Muniz. Like all these people have money, and like of course you're gonna go racing if you have a bunch of money. I just think it's cool that that they're it's just like somebody who owns like some pharmaceutical company or whatever. Like they're out there just racing because they have money. All these people are exactly the same, and we're like get to go see and watch them go race. They're basically just doing like rich guy club racing, but it's still cool that they're out there racing. It's so cool.
totally. Yep.
Is that it,
So
Tom?
yeah, try drifting. Oh, well, I was going to say we have if somehow you listen to this between now and the end of tomorrow, I think Andy's actually going to like let people take like paid fun runs in his drift car tomorrow. So if you're at Pitt and you want to try drifting, it's a
What?
pretty in his LS FRS drift car.
Oh,
You can
dang
still make
it.
it.
I don't have vacation time. I totally would. I would totally be there if I had vacation time.
This room will be open all day.
It
It
would
has
be.
Wi-Fi.
Tom, you're a bad influence.
Kevin's agreeing with me across the room.
mm. You know what? If I wasn't planning on going to Michigan on Friday, like if I was already planning on being there, I'd probably come there on tomorrow and like work remote all day and then just be at the racetrack when I finish.
I thought you were going to Mid Ohio on Friday. What's in Michigan?
No, Michigan. I'm the every year my old high school does like a homecoming, like alumni of the band can come play in the stands. So that's what I'm doing. So
Nice. That'll be fun.
it is fun. I get to play music with my sister, which I don't get to do except for that one time during the year.
So are you still doing Mid Ohio this week or was that last week?
Uh, yeah, it is this week, but I don't want to talk about
Gotcha.
it.
That's right.
I'll talk about it next
Later.
week, but not this week.
Yeah, copy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be here all weekend. So I hear I'll see you on Saturday. Yeah?
Yes. And then me and Christine probably will go on a hike on Sunday. What's the Grid Life schedule? I don't even know. Are they doing a bunch of races on Sunday? Or is it just
No,
like
only race 4.
only race 4? And it's like right in the morning?
I think it's 10 a.m., Kevin.
Oh.
10 a.m., race 4. He doesn't know. Somehow Kevin didn't know a thing. You're supposed to be my resource, man.
Come on, Kevin, pull it up.
Come on. No, I'm kidding. I think it's race 4 at 10 a.m. or something like that, done by noon.
Okay. Cool.
And then race 1, 2, 3 are on Saturday.
That'll be fun. Did you hear that Luke sold his car?
I did.
Luke
It'll be
McGrew?
here still, I think.
We had Luke McGrew on the podcast at one point, didn't we?
Yeah, he was on with Zach.
Yeah, he
Dude,
was.
Zach's gonna be here too. You'll see him too.
Zach racing in his BMW?
I think so.
Okay.
Zach Lavoie. We haven't talked about Zach in like
Oh.
a year.
Tom, I almost hit
You
this.
remember what note?
I almost hit this button, which is like the little. This is the Zach Lavoie button.
There he is.
There he is. They're the same color. That's why I almost hit the wrong button.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So.
I was wondering if you'd remember. Well, cool.
So
In that
all
case,
right.
I'll see you this weekend.
I'll see you in like 48 hours, Tom.
Sweet.
It'll be fun.
Good podcast.
Yep. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us in the live chat. And what?
And I believe next week, we don't know the day for sure, but I believe next week we'll have our guest, Will Rogers, on, the Oval guy.
Okay. That sounds fun.
Yeah, he's up for it.
Cool. So yeah, I guess that's the show. Tom, you wanna take us out?
Yeah, I'll take us out. I'm just because I'm staring at it right now. He's across the room. Kevin, your hair is incredible. I love your hair, and I hope you knit. He goes, thanks.